It's time for the Movie Raid movie review, and tonight I'm going to talk about Death House, starring Kane Hodder as Sig. And the story involves these two agents who just come into this prison facility, and not just any ordinary prison facility. It's got tons upon tons of inmates that are not exactly right in the head. Very disturbing. And Kane Hodder being the main role in this film. This involves one of the main characters, the female characters, that she basically kind of studies in a way. And they get this grand tour about the facility and how it works and what they do with these inmates. And things go very wrong. And the facility shuts down, and inmates are basically escaping from their cells, and it's all chaos from there. And so the objective is them escaping from the facility. Now, Kane Hodder's character is on this kind of a pilgrimage to kind of reach these, quote, evils, and in a way try to get mortality. Thinks he's supernatural and trying to go to hell and so forth. So this story is kind of a unholy type of supernatural type of film in a way. It's a little hard to explain when you are actually watching this film. You're trying to understand, where is the story going to? What is it? Is it a religious film? Religious story? Is it something else? It's so hard to explain if I were to simply just explain it to you and how it's going. But I will say, for starters, the cast. The cast in this film is awesome. You got all your favorite classic horror actors. You got Kane Hodder. You got Bill Burch Jr. You got Dee Wallace. You got Tony Todd. you got Vernon Wells. You got Michael Berryman. You got all kinds of these awesome actors. Even Sean Whalen's in this. However, that doesn't do much justice to the fact that these guys are in this film, because they don't really have much of a role in this film, except Dee Wallace being more screen time than pretty much anyone else, aside from Kane Hodder's role, obviously. Dee Wallace does give a little bit of a supporting oomph in the story, which is great, but things just doesn't really add up in this story. Like, first of all, right off the bat at the beginning of this story, and again, this is not really a spoiler, this is more of a point I'm making. The beginning of the story, as they enter the facility, the prison facility. Now, this prison facility is a massive prison facility. And what they do in this prison facility is they use technology, high-tech technology, and basically kind of manipulate the mind of these inmates and inject memories and take memories and erase memories, and and in some cases they relive the same memories, who they've killed or whatever memory that it might be, and they kind of just generate a whole new world for all these inmates. They kind of just play God with this in a way. But when the facility shuts down, it just doesn't make any sense to me why this would happen. Like, this is a $30 billion some odd type of, massive mega facility for all these inmates. And suddenly someone just cuts the power and, oh no, we're in trouble. Like, the security is, I guess that wasn't in the budget. Yeah, we don't want to input any kind of security issues at all if someone tries to tamper with the actual computer system or anything like that. No, it's fine. We got it. It makes no sense. And not only that, there's no reason why it's being shut down temporarily so that Kane Hodder's character can, get his objective moving in the process of the story. There's no group causing this to happen to why this facility just, gets shut down, on their security system and letting all these inmates out. Like, there is no indication as who or why this is happening. Now, we see at the beginning this kid, or, looks like a kid to me, I'm assuming it's a kid, does what he has to do and plants this kind of tracker or device into this person, and they kind of kick off the story from there. But it just doesn't make any sense as to what's being led here. Why is it being led to this point to where Kane Hodder's character is moving along with this? I would understand if Kane Hodder, before he got incarcerated, that he had some followers beforehand, and they were told the plan, and they went to the facility and did what they can to shut down the protocols so he can escape inside this facility and so forth. But we don't really see that at all. There's no followers or anything except for Kane Hodder's character, basically getting his own followers with the inmates as he's making his way to these quote 5 evils, or these evils. I would have said that this story would have been cool had they just stuck a little bit more toward the technology aspect that they were talking about, how they inject memories and they can make themselves into an avatar for the inmates, and then basically replicate everything from memory for these inmates and so forth. And it just kind of went off the rail off of that, and very disappointing. Now back to the cast wise, like, you even had Sid Haig in this film, which awesome to see him in this movie. You might as well just call it a cameo, because he doesn't do anything as far as story plot wise at all. You even had Danny Trejo in this, and again, a lot of familiar faces in this film, and basically nobody from the star-studded cast here is really generating anything in the storyline except for Kane Hodder, if you really want to break it down as far as who's doing what in the story. And I thought that very, very disappointing, because I was amazed. Like, there's not even a battle scene between Kane Hodder and or even Michael Berryman, or like, that would have been cool, not a Freddy versus Jason type thing. What I'm saying is, I would have loved to see some of these guys try to stop Kane Hodder's character, rather than just simply him making his way wherever he's got to make his way to these evils, whatever, and try to succeed at his goal. But no, we follow these agents, male, female agent, and they're making their way through the facility with Dee Wallace's character. And obviously, every step they take, there's inmates killing cops left and right. It's all chaotic. And then they come across these other inmates that apparently are mutated, or very outworldly looking type of entities. Like, they used to be human, but they're like very, very deformed, and obviously there's no explanation about that. Another thing, back to as far as all the other characters in the story, like, even the bios, I mean, some of the characteristics they just didn't even include in this movie. Like, meaning that when they introduce, like, Michael Berryman's character, Kane Hodder's character, and so forth, when they're talking about the bios on the characters, they're like, he is known to be doing this, but how many kills? Undetermined. How many kills? Undetermined. Like, barely any information on any of these characters, except for the fact that these guys have killed a lot of people, which I guess that makes them ultimate evils, as suggested in this storyline. But I just find it very disturbing that, well, not as much disturbing, just more disappointments on this. Like, it's kind of like all over the place in the storyline. Like, the journey that we go through in the process of to getting to the finish line of the movie, it's just so weird. Like, what is it trying to accomplish? Is it trying to accomplish to change humanity on what they were doing with this technology in this prison facility? Or were they trying to make their own, basically erase humanity's known motives to change the whole process of how people should be. I don't know, man. And is this the pinnacle where Kane Hodder is trying to kind of prove that in some degree? I have no idea. I just know that when Kane Hodder's character meets with the evils, nothing. I mean, there's really nothing majorly happening with this. They didn't really have any structure to the story, like with these quote evils and Kane Hodder and having to make something more than what it is. Like, nobody's really interjecting anything in this. And I thought, in my opinion, like the scene, the quote Satans, Sean Whalen and obviously Bill Bush Jr. You know, if you've seen this movie, you know what I'm talking about. You got these characters called the Three Satans, and they all claim to be Satan. One claims to be the creator of Satan. One claims to be the son of Satan, and the other one claims to be Satan himself. And their introduction in the story itself, I would have liked to have seen them have a little bit better interaction in the story itself. Only one of those characters, one of those Satans, actually has a role, but again, another disappointing role to see because it doesn't really do much. But overall, on the story, it just didn't land. Now, I understand this is from Gunnar Hansen's vision, but also the story has been rewritten. Now, I don't know how many times this the entire story has been rewritten, or let alone how many people were actually involved with this. But it just didn't land. I would have loved to see the full vision of Gunnar Hansen's actual story of what was proposed in this. But as seen on screen, I didn't quite understand what was the whole motive here. I didn't understand like what Tony Todd's character was trying to give us on what was the point of this. Like, is he harvesting people? Is he making them some kind of an energy source for something? I don't know. It's not really indicated in the story itself. I mean, I guess we're just kind of led to believe that he's just a helper. Obviously, he's a farmer, and obviously he's not doing anything that we would consider good, obviously. But always appreciated that Tony Todd is in this movie, he was awesome in this movie. Again, the cast is awesome in this movie. It's just that the plot and the structure of the story, I felt, was a big downfall with this whole thing. It's just point A, point B. That's how I see it. Point A, point B. And then there was no real climax at the end. It's like, really, that's it? That was this whole thing? Just so we could see that? And then we get some weird ongoing kind of pursuit for, I guess, Kane Hodder's character, I would imagine. Or maybe not. Maybe somebody else, which is not really mentioned or anything like that. But again, this is some weird, unholy, supernatural, kind of concept in a way. But the concept's just kind of out of whack. I just don't get it. It's just, that's all I can say. I'm confused. Like, where are we going with the story? What direction are these characters supposed to be? I mean, I want to say if they just stuck with the technology part of that story, where they were, put them in these virtual type of realms and stuff like that, that would have been something. But they just kind of, this is what we do, this is how it works, and then, oh no, crap happens, and then we just totally forget about that. And I'm going to give this a 5 out of a 10 on my ranking, because, I mean, the characters, there's no real characters in this. There really isn't. There's nothing that we would, make you emotionally attached to anybody. There's no real suspense. There's no really much of anything. I mean, yeah, sure, there's gore. Yes, there's some nudity in there. Female nudity, obviously, if you like that. But I also appreciate that they didn't really focus on that aspect. They really didn't. I will say though, the story just really needed some structure, and it just kind of felt like it was a mess. I just wish there was a little bit more action involved, and especially I really wish that they utilized, with all these actors that were in all these cult classic horror films as we grew up with, they would have had some interaction with each other or some kind of confliction on the characters or something to that degree, but it just fell flat in my opinion. So it's worth a watch, but don't expect something, major out of this. Don't expect it to be something like what they did with the Expendables franchise, and we had all these awesome action heroes and everybody that we were so familiar with, and then they had all these really big big scenes and live action sequences and whatnot. Nope, that is definitely not in this movie. But yeah, 5 out of a 10. Now, if you guys think that I'm wrong, please, leave a comment, leave your thoughts about what do you think about this movie. Do you think this was actually decent? Do you think it's, people are being a little bit too harsh about this? Or do you feel that this story definitely should have had a much better impact, a much better climax, considering the concept of it? You think it'd be much bigger and a little bit more lengthy type of adventure, but it wasn't, at least not for me. But I would say Kane Hodder did an awesome job. Everybody who was involved on the main cast, that all the familiar faces, they all did a good job for sure. It's just that they didn't utilize the characters as they should, and in my opinion, they kind of wasted the talent on that. Except for again, they just point A, point B. So there you have it.